Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
He needs care and treatment.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Is this a great country or what?
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope the work week's off to a good start for you. We're brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Got Jordan Kitchens and Braxton Rizzuto back there on the ones and twos, and lots to do to recap a weekend in sports. LSU got another football commitment we will discuss. Sam Burns was in the mix yesterday in the United States Open. Shreveport boy, LSU Tiger, just came up one shot short of Wyndham Clark. I want to discuss a little bit of that. I want to reset LSU's basketball roster because the college basketball world was shaken a little bit today with Dusty May's departure from Michigan to the Mavericks. That could have set forth some dominoes that would have put the transfer portal in motion again, but it did not because Michigan's going to promote from within. But it's just something that we haven't done in the last couple of weeks, and I think now's a decent time to do it. So we'll look into LSU's basketball roster a little bit later. It's a big day in LSU baseball history that we may discuss. The College World Series will be finalized. We'll have a new champion tonight. We'll preview that one in hour number 2, Saints position battle. So you get the picture. There's a lot to get to. Let's crank it up with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
It has been an incredibly busy month for LSU in recruiting. The Tigers landed another commitment yesterday on Father's Day, Gary Burney Jr., the 11th commitment for LSU this month. Now, June is 22 days old at this point, but 11 commitments LSU has reeled in. They've gotten 10 in the class of 2027 in this month. It started back on the 3rd with Ahmad Hudson's, in the 7th with KJ Green's commitment. Ahmad Hudson committed in May. KJ Green committed back on the 7th. You've gotten Brennan Lacey, the running back from Frisco, Texas. Marcus Davis, the cornerback from Opelousas, jumped in the boat on that same day. Cade Cooper, a wide receiver from up in Pennsylvania, committed. Then a week later, Amaziah Siale committed. He is a big 6'6" offensive lineman from Hawaii. He jumped in on the 15th. Added Terrence Smith, another big physical offensive lineman at 6'7" and 290. Trey Segura added to LSU's running back crop on the 16th. Then a day later, Trey Martin, another running back, jumped in for LSU to make it 3 in this class. That same day, Chris Whitehead and his younger brother committed. And then you had Gary Burney, who committed back on Sunday. You know, Burney is one of those classic Louisiana 3-stars that a school outside the state or at a lower level feels like they've gotten a real gem. And then LSU takes a look and goes, I'll take that. And then LSU ends up winning out. Houston got his commitment, and Houston's thinking, okay, we've gone into Northern Louisiana, went to Bossier Parkway High School, where LSU has recruited players like Terrace Marshall, like Brandon Harris. That's where Gary Burney plays, and Texas and Houston had picked up his commitment. He's a 6'3" rangy wide receiver, and LSU brought him into camp and wanted to take a look, and they liked what they saw, and they get him in the boat. And this is a kid who has dreamed of playing for LSU. Once that offer came, you had a feeling like that was going to be a pretty quick flip, and there it was. He made that happen on Sunday. Again, I'm not here to be Joe Evaluator here. That's not what anybody is tuning in for. I'll let the folks at the recruiting websites and, more importantly, the LSU coaches handle that. My deal that I like to analyze is, like, how are you putting classes together? What are you prioritizing? And for LSU, I think it was obviously very, very vital in this class to make sure that you nabbed one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and they did that with the first commitment of this class in Peyton Houston. He committed to him back in September, and that was important. You had Colton Nussmeier, who's since committed to Georgia. You had Elijah Haven, who has since committed to Alabama, and you had Peyton Houston. All three of those guys, you felt like you had a reasonable chance to go recruit because of the ties with, obviously, you have Haven here in the city. Colton Nussmeier's older brother was the starting quarterback here, and then Peyton Houston's Louisiana kid, and LSU made that happen. I thought it was important for LSU to get high school running backs in this class, even though you do have depth at that position. You went and got 4 transfers, and you kept 2. You do have depth at that position. I just thought continuing that pipeline was important, and LSU did it. You always, always, always want to get linemen in your recruiting classes because those are the guys that you're going to have to get into your program and develop. Now, the tricky part about linemen is that they don't help right away. So I was always going to be curious to see how Lane Kiffin wanted to navigate that. And you've seen LSU go after some very high-profile defensive linemen and land them. And you've seen LSU go after some potential projects on the offensive line. I mentioned Ciale earlier. That's a guy that's is 6'6", 365 pounds, comes from Hawaii. It was a guy that Cal had committed, and LSU kind of liked what they saw, and I doubt had to overpay significantly for him. He's a 3-star. I mean, you look at what they've got him ranked at on Rivals. He's the number 605 player in the nation. Like, this is not a blue-chip prospect, but somebody that LSU liked. They liked the projection on him, so they go ahead and bring him in. And you're still in this class. You continue to fill things out, searching for some more 5-stars. There are some in-state, like Albert Simeon is a guy from in-state that LSU is obviously very much recruiting. You're trying to make a splash with Easton Royal, who did make his trip, we understand, to Austin over the weekend. So it's there's still a lot to be done in this signing class, but there's been a lot of action over the course of the last 3 weeks. This is a fascinating portion of LSU's program under Lane Kiffin to me, because we talked about this last week. Lane Kiffin signed 1 5-star at Ole Miss in his 6 years there recruiting full classes. 1. And LSU, you can do more of that, but it's expensive. And sometimes they don't help right away. So do you want to prioritize that? And we felt like this was going to be the biggest differentiator between Ole Miss and LSU, and why Lane Kiffin would take the job is better access to elite high school players. He didn't have that, or didn't capitalize on that, at Ole Miss. And coaches at LSU, whether they've had success or not, have done that at LSU. Brian Kelly got high-profile high school players to LSU. Ed Ogeron got high-profile players from high school to LSU. So did Les Miles, so did Nick Saban. But you got to prioritize it, because it's not just about, oh, we got a big stadium that seats a lot of people, and oh, we're the home state school, and oh, we've got Heisman trophies and national championships. Now you've got to commit finances to it. And that's something we know LSU is going to do in the transfer portal. How ambitious are they going to be to do it in the high school ranks? And we're seeing that they will. Like, they've gotten 4 different 5-star prospects committed to this class. So they are prioritizing, to an extent, high school recruiting. And I anticipated that, but you understand Lane Kiffin has talked about getting his money on the field. You don't want to pay someone to develop them for somebody else. You go get a high 5-star prospect, he comes in, you pay a pretty penny for him, he takes a year to develop, he jumps in the portal. Now he's playing for Auburn, he's playing for Texas, and you paid for him and developed him for them. So you don't want to do that. So it's just a different world than it was previously. And I'm fascinated by how Lane Kiffin chooses to navigate it. And in looking at this, he is going after big fish. Chris Whitehead is a 5-star in the 24/7 Sports Composite. That's a big fish. Terrence Smith on the offensive line is a top 10 player on the interior offensive line, according to Rivals. Cade Cooper is a really high-profile player from far away, Pennsylvania. It's a guy that potentially could have gone to Penn State. You pulled him into LSU. That's not going to be cheap. KJ Green, big-time edge rusher, rated a 5-star. You're going to have to pay for that. Ahmad Hudson. I mean, that's a guy you know LSU's going to go after based on his skill set and where he's from, but they did. Peyton Houston's not going to be cheap. But they are sinking resources into high school recruiting, and they don't plan to take 40 kids out of the portal every single year. They had to this time around. You have a coaching change, your roster gets gutted, you got to go restock the shelves. And LSU did that in a big way. And they spent a lot of money on it. But you don't want to have to do that every single year. This is a message that Brian Kelly delivered and that Lane Kiffin has stuck to as well. And so you don't know how many of these guys are going to pan out and play their entirety of their career at LSU, but it's good to get those guys in. I will stand by this until I'm forced to change my mind, which I don't think is going to happen. You want the Trey'Dez Greens, the Whit Weeks, the Will Campbells, the Emory Jones, the Malik Neighbors. You want those guys that stay 3 and 4 years in your program. You want Jordan Seaton too. You want Sam Levitt too. You want Ty Benefield too. You want Mansour Delane too. But those guys that help you for 3 years, those are foundational pieces to your program. And a lot of times those are going to come from the high school ranks. Now, they did a good job in the portal this year of getting guys with multiple years of eligibility. They appeared to skew that way in a lot of cases. But the high school guys have the longest runway. If you can get them in, develop them, get them to the field, and keep them there. It's very, very good. LSU's class has moved up considerably over the course of the last 3 weeks. They're now 10th ranked in the country. That average class score on Rivals is 90.84. It's a little bit better than last year's class, which was a smaller one under Lane Kiffin. But a top 10 class right now, and there's still some really big fish that are in Louisiana that you've got a chance to reel in. And this could be a top 5 class in the country. And I can tell you that Lane Kiffin never signed a top 5 class at Ole Miss. Be a good thing. We're off and running here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. They're online at guaranteehealth.com, guaranteehealth.com. Crazy day yesterday at Shinnecock Hills, and there was a local angle to it. I'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust, FABT.com, FABT.com. They've been growing for 116 years. That's a long time. And that's how they get to 25 locations. 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. And the most important thing I drive home to you about First American Bank and Trust every single day is that when they make a decision on your commercial loan for your business, when they make a decision on your personal loan for potentially your home, that decision is being made locally by a person with roots in Southeast Louisiana. When you bank with First American Bank and Trust and you pick up the phone and make that phone call, you're not getting somebody in Chicago. You're not getting someone in Atlanta. You're getting someone in Southeast Louisiana. So whether you're up I-12 in St. Tammany or Tangipahoa, whether you're down the bayou in St. John or Lafourche Parish, right outside Baton Rouge, maybe you're in Metairie, there's a First American Bank and Trust branch near you. 25 of them throughout Southeast Louisiana. Bank local with the friends at First American Bank and Trust.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Remind you about my friends at the Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com is the website. The Highland Insurance Group, you know that it is storm season. You want to make sure that your insurance program is ready to respond if necessary. Do you have the right business interruption insurance? That's just a vital line of coverage when there's a significant weather impact like a hurricane, because if you can't work, your expenses probably continue. That's what business interruption is there for. Do you continue your revenues that are lost because you can't work? I've seen this line of coverage change businesses, keep them afloat when bad things happen, like hurricanes. Do you know what your business interruption limit is if you are a business owner? Probably should. The Howard Insurance Group can make sure it is properly taken care of. That's where they're experts. They come in and make sure your coverages read properly. Those are complex documents, those insurance policies. A lot of folks just skim through them and see how quickly they can get to the premium. If that's the case, get a second set of eyes. Make sure this storm season that you're not scrambling after the storm rolls through to make sure your policy is properly written. Do it now. Contact Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group or online at HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. All right, wild day yesterday at the United States Open with the local flavor. Sam Burns from Shreveport, Louisiana, former LSU Tiger, was right there in the mix. And it didn't appear that he was going to be when he teed off. You're talking about a 7-shot difference. And if Wyndham Clark doesn't completely come back to earth, then Sam Burns doesn't really have a chance, because there was no one was going to be able to go out there on U.S. Open Sunday and shoot a 64. Like, that's just not out there at Shinnecock with the wind blowing and the greens as firm as they were. So you were going to need Wyndham Clark to come back, and he did. He shot 73. And then Sam was going to have to go kind of nuts, and he did. He was 2 under through the 8th, put himself right there in position, continued to hit quality golf shots, and then he pours in that long birdie putt to make a push late, and then he needed one of the putts on 17 or 18 to go. He hit such a good shot in on 17. As he termed it, he had a bad read. The stroke looked terrible on the putt. It was just low all the way and didn't have a lot of pace behind it. But he made a really good stroke at it on 18 on a putt that I thought he absolutely had to have, and it just didn't go in. It was a really good roll. It was aggressive. It was on line for a long way, and it burned the edge of the cup, and he didn't get it to go. And Wyndham Clark did kind of cough one up there on 17, but he hit that stellar lag putt on 18 to get it done. I think what yesterday did for me is it furthered my belief that Burns has the ability to win these majors. He went so long early in his career where he just was a non-factor in major championship golf. He had one top 10. He just was never around at all in majors. And now, when you look back, he's been right in the thick of the last 2 U.S. Opens that were very different tests. Last year, you had Oakmont, which is so long and the rough so tall and it was wet, and it was a really difficult course because of the length and the length of the rough. This was different because it's not the longest golf course that they play, but it does have ridiculously difficult conditions because the wind always blows and the greens are really firm as they firmed up over the course of the weekend. It's just a different test, and he was right there in the middle of it. He's shown up at PGAs. He's absolutely put himself in position, and I thought he played well enough to win the golf tournament yesterday. So I think more so than 4 years ago, I think now Sam Burns is ready to win a major, and that would be incredible. The only LSU Tiger to ever win a major, obviously, is David Toms, who won the PGA Championship over in Atlanta. Burns would become the second guy to do it, and I think he absolutely can. I'll tell you this, though, kind of independent of Burns. This is like what all the coverage centered around after the tournament was over yesterday. I was obviously pulling for Sam Burns. I am from Shreveport. I went to LSU. Sam Burns is from Shreveport. He went to LSU. That's the story I wanted. I wanted Burns to win. We went to the North Shore to my father-in-law's house yesterday, and my Father's Day gift, I was like, here's what I want. We can go to your dad's house. That's great. Can you drive home so I can watch the golf? And so I sat in the passenger seat of my car and watched the golf, and I'm fist pumping along with Burns when he pours in that birdie putt and he knocks it up there close on 17. Like, I wanted him to win. And even though I was pulling for Sam Burns to win, I was stunned at the behavior and reaction of the crowd for Wyndham Clark. Stunned. They openly hated him. Openly. And you just don't see that a lot in major championship golf. Like, absolutely, there are partisan crowds in the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup. Sometimes, if you've got a native son, if Rory is in Ireland, or if you've got someone who's in their hometown, like David Toms won the Compact Classic here in New Orleans, like sometimes there are partisan cheers. Mickelson was, a huge presence at like Augusta, and Tiger had the folks that pulled for him. But like in just a general stroke play major championship, pretty much everyone gets applause and cheers. And Wyndham Clark was like knocking wedges inside 5 feet, and people weren't cheering. He was making birdie putts. People weren't cheering. He was hitting shots, and when they trickled off the green, they were applauding. They were screaming, "Get in the bunker," when he hit shots. Like, I've not seen this almost ever. Like, Colin Montgomery got it pretty bad, but that was in a foreign country. Like, this is an American guy in America getting openly rooted against. It was like uncomfortable to watch. And you just never see that. And Wyndham Clark talked about it after. He's like, yeah, I mean, obviously they don't like me very much. And it's just odd because, yes, Wyndham Clark last year at the U.S. Open was in a bad spot with his golf game, played very poorly at Oakmont, and took it out on a locker. It's ridiculously pathetic behavior. He should be regretful. It's regrettable. He should regret it. He should feel bad about it. He should be embarrassed by it. It's utterly pathetic to take a golf club and bash out a locker at Oakmont. That's absolutely ridiculous behavior, and I would never excuse it. But he's not an axe murderer, okay? He liked some political tweets people didn't like, okay? He's said a few things on hot mics that people don't love, but like, this is not the worst guy ever. There are plenty of people in the game of golf that have done much worse things than Wyndham Clark has done. And he's the guy that's like the persona non grata. He's the villain. It was so odd to me. And I am fascinated at times by like sports fan behavior. Y'all know, y'all have heard me talk. I don't understand home fans booing their team. That is weird to me. People will challenge me and say, you're soft. I paid my ticket for this. I can tell them whatever I want. And you're right. You can do whatever you want. I just don't get it. In my head, you would want to support your team as opposed to boo them. They know they're not playing well if they're not playing well. But that's the way that I see it. And for me, like, to openly root against a guy in stroke play is weird behavior at a golf tournament. And on Saturday, when he from 275 yards out hit a 3-wood to 4 or 5 feet and like no one cheered, that is weird. And then he pours in that birdie putt on 16 yesterday, and like that would have been just absolute mayhem if it was Rory McIlroy or Mickelson or Scheffler who was playing with him. And it was like you can see people in the background. Go back and, if you're a golf fan, go back and look at this. Watch when he makes that birdie putt right in the middle from, what was that, 25 feet? Look in the background as he pumps his fist. There are a lot of people, not like one guy, a lot of people that aren't even clapping. I cannot recall seeing that. And I was pulling against him. I wanted Burns to win. But that was like, I saw the Barstool, Riggs from Barstool's got a podcast called Foreplay, and I saw a little clip from him yesterday. He said it was, people were just being mean. And that sounds like you're analyzing a 5th grade playground and not the United States Open, but it kind of fits. Like, people were being mean. It was odd. I had to send a text message to my cousin. My cousin lives in Denver. He married a girl that was from Denver. She grew up with Wyndham Clark. So they're not like best buddies, but like she grew, and I was like, I texted my cousin. I was like, do people just not like this guy in Denver? Or like, where is this? I was unaware of this until Saturday of this week, that people just hate Wyndham Clark. And it turns out, like, no, people like him in Denver, but he does have a bit of a temper. He's got that reputation. And people just decided yesterday, like, I get it. I get that Scheffler was chasing the career Grand Slam. I get that people don't want a runaway winner. You want a competitive golf tournament, but you kind of got that. And you got a huge moment on 16, and there just was no reaction. I would not have been in that number if I was at the tournament. I mean, I yes, want Burns to win, but I certainly would have applauded and cheered for these moments. And it was, I felt bad for him. I felt bad for him. Maybe I'm soft. Maybe I'm pathetic. Maybe that's weak. Maybe I need to toughen up. Who knows? But I don't recall watching a golf tournament that featured someone on quote-unquote home soil that was being rooted against that openly by that many people. It was so odd. But the local angle to this is that Sam Burns, I think, is going to win a major championship. He's got everything you need in the bag to get that done. He finally played. He played well enough to win the golf tournament yesterday. A 67 in those conditions is remarkable. And listen to this. They've now played the U.S. Open at Shinnecock either 6 or 7 times, I forget. But you get the point. It's either 6 or 7. It's plenty of playings of the U.S. Open at Shinnecock. A total of 6 people have finished under par at Shinnecock for the U.S. Open. A total of 6. 3 of those were this year. Wyndham Clark, who won, Tom Kim, and Sam Burns. He's one of 6 people in the history of Shinnecock U.S. Opens to shoot under par. He went 71, 68, 71, 67. Joaquin Niemann shot 66 yesterday. That was the only round. And Ludwig Oberg were the rounds better than Sam Burns, and those guys were out of the tournament. Sam was right in the middle of it and raised his level to the level of a major championship. He caught that tough break out of the water when it all went awry, trying to win a U.S. Open previously. He didn't catch any terrible breaks this time around. Just couldn't get one of those last 2 putts to go in. And if one of those goes in, he's in a playoff, and I think he's got a great chance to win. I think that it was a real positive for Sam, and it'll be awesome when he finally does check off that major box. It just didn't come at Shinnecock over the weekend, but cool to see him in the mix and playing as well as he did. And I thought his his post-round interview session was really good. I would suggest you go back and watch that if you haven't. He handled himself really well and feels like he's close. Just didn't quite get that one putt to drop. So let's look at the United States Open. Sam Burns just one shot short of Wyndham Clark. All right, when we come back, I just want to do an exercise here. There was so much happening, and then there's so much controversy about LSU's basketball roster. At LouisianaSports.net today, I kind of sorted it out for you. If you're curious where things stand numbers-wise, positionally, and with the time frame, I'll clear some of that up when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
GoTro's Outdoor Power. GoTro's Outdoor Power. They're online at GoTrosOnline.com. 2 locations, one on Airline in Baton Rouge, one, of course, in Gonzales as well. Been open for 22 years, and they're doing it locally right here. It's the GoTro family. Shop local for those zero-turn mowers. They've got incredible deals going on in the month of June, and you still got a week to get by. Their Raptor Series, $200 off. Their Fast Track Series, $500 off. Their commercial mowers, up to $1,500 off. Incredible stuff. Father's Day weekend was a big one for them over at GoTro's Outdoor Power. If you didn't get on by this week and get those great June savings on their line of hustlers. They're the National Hustler Deal of the Year 2 of the last 3 years. They got the biggest hustler inventory in the state, largest parts inventory in the state as well. Go by and see them on Airline or in Gonzales. It's GoTro's Outdoor Power.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Guarantee Health Solutions brings you our Monday shows. You can find them online at GuaranteeHealth.com, GuaranteeHealth.com. Rachel Fricke runs an awesome team over there. She went through the healthcare system alongside her mother after her mother was diagnosed with cancer. And Rachel's takeaway from it was just how impersonal it was, how uncomfortable it was, how unpleasant the healthcare system can be. And she set out to make a difference. And that's where Guarantee Health Solutions was born. Rachel's got a background in hotels and hospitality and wanted to bring that into the healthcare world. And she has. And they're fantastic at what they do. If you're in the healthcare space, whether you got a hospital, if you got an urgent care clinic or a dental practice or a private practice, no matter what it may be, how often do you assess your digital footprint? Do you look at your website and how many clicks to care? How often do you assess the patient journey once they walk in the door and how they're greeted and how that process works as they're in your facility? How often do you understand what that process to get them back in for those follow-up appointments? If that's not something generally that you take a look at and assess, that's where Guarantee Health Solutions can come in. They can help you build your website. They can help with your digital advertising. They can help you work with the real estate agent to find the proper location. All these types of things that are not about just treating the patient is where Guarantee Health Solutions can really make a difference. And they have made a difference for a lot of different partners over the year. They had a Net Promoter Score go up from 65 to 90 in 3 months working with Guarantee Health Solutions. Go check them out online, GuaranteeHealth.com, GuaranteeHealth.com. Guarantee Health Solutions, they're moving healthcare forward. All right, I wanted to just take a quick second this time of year when things are a little bit slower to just assess where LSU basketball is, because you had that really fast run on some transfers and then the reports of the foreign players coming over, and everything just kind of cooled, and you're just not hearing anything about LSU basketball right now. And so just for my own edification, I went back and I put the roster down on paper, and I was like, all right, what does this look like? And I wanted to do that kind of for you here as well. So you've got 11 guys, best I can tell, that have either committed, enrolled, or have been reported to be heading to LSU. 11 total. You go in the backcourt, Divine Ogachukwu, Austin Nunez, Mo Diabate, Abdi Bashir. Those are all transfers. You've got Saliu Niang from Italy. You've got Yam Madar from Israel, the 27-to-be-year-old, and RJ Lewis, who was in the G League but never played for the last 2 seasons. That's your backcourt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. And in the front court, you've got Bryce Dessert, who was playing in Turkey. You've got Marcio Santos, who was playing in Israel. You've got Michael Ruzic, who was playing in Spain. And you've got Jordan Bender, who they got out of high school last week. That's 4 guys. So you've got 7 in the front court, 7 in the backcourt, 4 in the front court. That's 11 players. And you understand that 9 of them, you feel very, very good about their eligibility. I'll go through those. The 4 transfers, Ugachukwu from Michigan State, Nunez from UTSA, Diabate from Kentucky, and Bashir from Kansas State. Obviously, those 4 guys, good to go. They're just standard transfers. I don't have any problem with Saliu Niang. He was drafted by Cleveland. He never signed a contract with Cleveland. He fits the mold of these professional guys that are coming over to play in college basketball. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of them, and I don't see any issue with his eligibility at all. Then you go to the front court. Same thing can be said for Bryce Dessert, Marcio Santos, and Michael Ruzick. Michael Ruzick is 19 years old. He, to me, is completely without issue being eligible. Marcio Santos was being recruited by Kentucky. We know that. Bryce Dessert was being recruited by Arizona. He was being recruited by North Carolina. So that's a guy that a lot of schools were after. I don't have any problems with that eligibility from that perspective. The 2 guys that you do have to worry about are Yam Madar. He's played a lot of professional basketball, like 7 years. He's pushing 27 years old. That's a guy that, based on his years of playing in professionally and the amount of money he's made, that's something that you may get some pushback on. Now, LSU is going to argue that his military service should be considered here, where he had a couple years of military service, and that he has not been signed for an NBA team. So, okay, maybe. And then you've got RJ Lewis, who has significant issues because he left his collegiate eligibility and has signed contracts with multiple NBA teams, though he has never played in a G League game or an NBA game. So let's just say that everybody's eligible. Well, then you've got 11 guys, and I don't even really care who your 12th guy is. Like, that doesn't really matter. I don't care who your 13th guy is. Will Wade said on John Rothstein's podcast, he said, look, we last year at NC State paid 13 guys. That was a mistake. It's nice to have 13 guys on the payroll for practice. By the time you get to ACC games in that case, you're playing 9 guys. You've got 4 guys you've invested in that aren't helping you. You need to take that money from those 4 guys and invest it in stars. So he only cares about 8 or 9 guys anyway. And if you've got 11, that's perfectly fine. I don't care what your last 2 look like. If you lose Madar and you lose Lewis, now what does that look like? Well, you weaken yourself at point guard, and you probably have Divine Ugachukwu and Austin Nunez running the point for you. Transfer from Michigan State, transfer from UTSA. Both guys have been multiple-time transfers. They're old players. They're probably your point guard. And then you would have on the wing Abdi Bashir, who's a great shooter from Kansas State, Mo Diabate, who's a really good defender, and then Saliu Niang, who's a ridiculous athlete, great defender, and a slashing scorer who can play above the rim. You've got a lot of elements there. Madar would be the guy that makes this thing go. He's the most exciting playmaker that they've got potentially. He's just a bit of an issue with the eligibility because he's so old. And then in the front court, you're set. Like, you've got Bryce Dessert and Marcio Santos. Both guys are over 6'10". Both guys are men. Both guys are big and physical. And so those are your 3 and your 4 and your 5. Ruzick is young, comparatively speaking, to this team, but he's played some professional basketball. He's very, very talented, very, very skilled, just kind of skinny. And then Bender is a project, who I think is probably your 11th man at this point. But you've got 3 guys in the front court that you trust, and you can get some big minutes out of Diabate. You can get some big minutes out of Niang. They're bigger, longer players. So it's a roster right now that is 9, 10, or 11 deep. 9 if you don't get your 2 guys eligible, 11 if you do. If you're only at 9, I don't know where LSU goes to fill the rest of this roster. I think Will Wade feels like that 9 can compete in the SEC. I sense that because of the lack of activity, that's where they're at. My guess is, and this is a guess, this is not reporting, that they have, quote unquote, maxed out the credit card here. They have spent the money they're going to spend. There doesn't appear to be anybody out there that would be significant to add. I can't tell you I've combed through everyone in Europe, but if you look at the transfer portal, there's not a lot of really impact players there. There could have been, had Dusty May's departure forced Michigan into the hiring cycle. If they had gone and hired somebody else's coach, and then you would have had a coaching carousel that knocked off 4 different coaches and you got 4 different teams' players to jump in the transfer portal, you could have potentially, because if your coach leaves, you can get in the transfer portal. You could have potentially seen some movement there for LSU, but Michigan is going to promote from within, so that's not going to send a big shockwave through college basketball. So I just feel like this is the team that they're prepared to put on the floor. And they're hopeful that they get 11 guys eligible here. And then maybe you grab a couple walk-ons for 12 and 13 and you call it a day. But it's a lesser team if you lose Lewis and Madar. My analysis of Lewis and Madar is that they would average about 30 points a game for LSU. I think Lewis could be an 18-point per game kind of guy. He was the Big East Player of the Year at St. John's. I think he could be an 18-point scorer at LSU. And I think that Madar would be a 12.5 assist guy too. Like these are impact dudes. So you would have to replace those 30 points if they're not eligible. And I think you take a bit of a hit there because the guys, Ugachukwu and Nunez, to me, are depth pieces. If they become your focal points offensively, that's not nearly as good. But if you're LSU right now, this is kind of where you are. And I look at the calendar. There are 9 weeks until school starts. And Will Wade told John Rothstein, we're going to have a team ready by the time school starts. But you're not getting a lot of rumor. You're not getting a lot of noise. You're not getting a lot of reporting even from overseas because that stuff started to trickle out from the guys overseas before it got to us here in stateside. And it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of that going on right now. So I take the quietness from LSU as confidence. Maybe that's irrational, but it's kind of the way I sense it. And this team right now is good enough to compete in the SEC if it's all eligible. I just don't know when we're going to get that determination. And it feels like those dominoes are going to need to start falling because we know how long things can take in our legal system, in the court system. You got to bring that to the table. And I just don't know when that's going to happen for LSU. But that's a look at it. If you want to see it on paper, want to see it in front of you instead of just me blabbing about it, I wrote it at LouisianaSports.net. You can read it there for free on the front page. But I just listed out the roster and kind of gave my thoughts on where they are from a numbers perspective. Somewhere between 9 and 11 right now. And I think that's all Will Wade wants at the end of the day. If he can get to 11, if you get just 9, you're a little bit thin. Let's just call it what it is. You're a little bit thin. But we'll see. They've got 9 weeks to get it figured out before school starts. So that's a look at LSU basketball here in the month of June. When we come back, today's a big day in history for LSU baseball. I'll tell you what I mean next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Always love telling you about my friends over at Ochsner. They've got kind of a different theme every single month over there to keep you informed. And this month, they just want you to know that if you're an athlete or just trying to stay active, that Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute can help get you moving and keep you moving. You got access to the highest levels of specialized care, nationally renowned expertise, the latest equipment, modern facilities, and that includes that convenient walk-in orthopedic clinic at Elite Training Complex on Burbank. If you drive by it on Burbank, you'll see the football field right next to it with the goalpost. You can't miss it. But it's a walk-in clinic. So if you've got sprains, strains, minor dislocations, youth sports injuries, or you just get hurt there in the backyard, you can walk in without an appointment to Elite Training Complex, and you can be seen. Ochsner Andrews Institute is there to help you move your healing forward and get you back to doing what you love, whether that's being in the gym, whether that's playing ancient athletes, whether that's high school sports, or just playing with the grandkids. That's what they can do for you at Ochsner. Find them online at ochsner.org/brortho.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Marucci always gives you an opportunity to work on your game. You got a youth athlete in your house, whether it's baseball or softball, and they want to get some work in all summer long. Become a member at Marucci. You get key card access to their hitter's house, which allows you 24/7 to go in there and take some swings, to go in there and work on some pitching. You can do it there in the hitter's house. I know this time of year it's 1,000 degrees during the day. Maybe you don't want to go take some swings outside. Rains just about every afternoon at like 3 o'clock. Maybe not an opportunity to go play. Or maybe it gets dark and you don't have anywhere to go. Well, Marucci takes care of all that. Doesn't matter how hot it is. Doesn't matter if it's raining or it's dark. you can go take some swings in the hitter's house. So become a member over there at Marucci. 24/7 access to the cages via your key card that comes with the membership. It's a great resource here in Baton Rouge for the youth baseball player or the youth softball player in your house. It's Marucci's Hitter's House. You can find them online at maruccisports.com. I did not realize this. Did not realize this until Twitter started talking to me today and tripped down old memory lane. June 22nd. You know where you were in 2023, June 22nd. You know where you were in 2025 on June 22nd. In 2023, one of the greatest games in the history of college baseball took place on June 22nd. That was LSU's 2-0 win over Wake Forest to get LSU into the national final. It was Rhett Lauder. It was Paul Skeens. It was Trey Morgan's unbelievable defense on the squeeze bunt. It was a gutty effort by Thatcher Hurd. It was a huge swing of the bat by Tommy White, and it was heartbreak for a truly great Wake Forest team. Rhett Lauder was exceptional for that team. Brock Wilken holds just about every record they've got at Wake Forest. That day, Nick Kurtz was scratched. He didn't play. He was scratched pregame, but as he turned into a stud of a big leaguer for the A's. He's awesome. He was on that team. Camden Manassi, stellar bullpen arm. Massey, another great old bullpen. I mean, they were really, really good. And LSU played them straight up. Skeens carved them up. And finally, with Dylan Cruz on first base, Tommy White came up with the swing on the hanging breaking ball. I'll tell you all this. When I watched that home run that Tommy White hit, still to this day, 3 years later, to the day, it looks like he hit it off the end of the bat. I remember thinking that live when he hit it. But his reaction and Ravitch going, did he get it? Did he get it? As I was watching it from home, showed that he hit it right on the screws. It just looks like it was off the end of the bat. We watched Tommy White hit missiles for 2 years in Baton Rouge. And that one just didn't have the look to me, but he crushed it because that ball got way out of there. And it's an LSU to the national final where they would win national championship number 7, the first one under Jay Johnson. That was on June the 22nd. And then the other June the 22nd last year, Game 2 of the championship series. So it is currently 365 days from LSU's national championship win over Coastal Carolina. About that game, I think the thing that I'll remember most is it's twofold for me. It's the shot up the middle by Curiel that drove the runs in, and you felt like LSU had seized control of the game. And you felt like LSU had a good read on Morrison, who was a Sun Belt pitcher of the year. Because Coastal's only chance was to hold LSU's bats down. They weren't going to hit a lot against LSU. That was the best 1-2 punch Coastal would have seen all year. Anderson in Game 1, they couldn't touch him. Ianson in Game 2. I didn't feel like they were going to score a lot of runs. So when LSU punched and got that 2 spot on the board early, I just didn't feel like Coastal was going to be able to come back. And the second memory from that day is just how many strikes Chase Shores was throwing. Because I felt like, to that point, that Coastal was going to have a really hard time hitting Chase Shores if he didn't give him anything. And you knew that defense wasn't going to crack. They were going to play defense. And he didn't walk anybody. Chase Shores didn't walk anybody in Omaha. Amazing. For a guy that was throwing 101. And once he dialed it in from a command perspective and was throwing strikes, I was sitting in the press box, and I was just like, they're not going to hit this guy. And they didn't. They got the leadoff single in the ninth, but obviously we know it got erased 2 outs later with the ground ball to second base for the double play, and LSU wins the 8th national championship in program history. But I did not realize, I mean, you realize it's the same time every year, but I didn't realize the Tommy White walk-off and LSU's national championship from today came on the same day, which is June 22nd. I got a notification earlier this morning that my return flight from Omaha is still scheduled for tomorrow. I've since canceled it, but it is set for tomorrow. I booked that in January, and I will not be making it. I also remember last year, LSU wins in 2 games, obviously, and they finish it on Sunday. And so I stayed and did my show on Monday, And I booked a flight home for Tuesday in case LSU made it all the way through and played a game 3 like they did in 2023. So I was still there Monday night after my show. Me and my dad went and played putt-putt at this indoor putt-putt bar and got some pizza. And I took a video outside of it raining. I was like, it would have been tough to play a game. And it was like 30 hours after LSU had won the national championship. And there were people that were texting me and tweeting at me like, you're still in Omaha? Go home. It's like, well, a lot of people were trying to go home on that day. So I stayed an extra day, was allotted in for the game 3 that never happened. But we'll have a game 3 tonight in Omaha from Charles Schwab Field between Oklahoma and North Carolina, and I'm very, very excited for that. I did not watch a lot of the College World Series yesterday because I painted that picture for you. I was coming home from the North Shore, and I was watching golf on my phone. So I was monitoring the score, keeping up with people's analysis on Twitter, but I didn't watch a lot of the game. I'll be locked in tonight for 9 innings. I'm really excited about it. Kind of a stress-free watch. I would prefer North Carolina win, but I don't really care. I don't have a lot of hatred in my heart for Oklahoma. Skip Johnson's a heck of a coach, and I don't think that Oklahoma winning a national title is going to do anything to negatively impact LSU in any way. I couldn't have Ole Miss win, and I can't have Arkansas win, and can't have Texas A&M win, and I don't want to pull for Texas either. Didn't really pull for Georgia, really, but Oklahoma seems kind of harmless to me. So I don't care if they win. It'll be stress-free watch, and I think it's going to be a very fascinating ball game. So I'll break that down in hour number 2. But today, June 22nd, is the same day that Tommy White lifted LSU to the final in 2023, and that Anthony Ianson, Chase Shores, Derek Curiel, Stephen Milam and company lifted LSU to the 8th title in program history just 1 year ago today. So cool stuff for LSU in Omaha. A lot of days in late June have a lot of positive connotation for LSU baseball. It's just kind of the way it is around here. Our Monday show is brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. They're online at guaranteehealth.com, guaranteehealth.com. Missed any of the first hour? Talk to LSU basketball. Talk to LSU football recruiting. Talk a little LSU baseball as well. You can go catch that on demand. We also talk some U.S. Open with Sam Burns being in the mix. That's got an LSU flavor too. We got a lot to do in hour number 2 as well. We'll start with the Men's College World Series after national headlines and Sports Center. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, lifetimeroofingla.com, lifetimeroofingla.com. Now, Lifetime Roofing is the name of the company, but it's also a promise they make you. It's a lifetime workmanship warranty. That warranty covers the craftsmanship, obviously, but it also covers the materials, which are backed by CertainTeed, one of the oldest and most trusted names in building materials. So if you're looking for a local roofing company that's going to be here before the storm, be here after the storm, and offer you a lifetime workmanship warranty, Lifetime Roofing is the call you need to make. You can trust them. They're from Baton Rouge, got an amazing team here, awesome facility just off College Drive, and they're growing. If you're looking for an opportunity in employment, you want a place that offers benefits, Lifetime Roofing would be happy to help you. Maybe it's time to get that roof fortified. It's hurricane season. Make sure that tune-up happens for you. And if you need a new roof, trust the folks at Lifetime Roofing to get it done for you. It's Lifetime Roofing. You can check them out online at lifetimeroofingla.com. That's lifetimeroofingla.com, lifetimeroofingla.com.